welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Louis D'Souza and Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Now, I suppose I should qualify that by saying that Louis intends to be with us. He's not quite here just yet, having some technical difficulties. But once he gets those straightened out, he'll be joining in and participating.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But it's good to see you back in fine form again. You've been feeling a little under the weather lately. Not a great.
Yeah, I'm much better. Thank you, Walt.
Yeah, you look better. You look. Well, you got your happy smile on. That's how I know you're better.
Definitely. And a happy new year to everybody.
Happy New Year. That's right. Yeah. It's funny too, because New Year is a time when most people, not me, but most people engage in things like, New Year's resolutions and, going on the diet and, all the things that people tend to do at the beginning of a new year. And somebody had posted about that recently. I think it was in the Thai group, actually. They posted about that. And my comment in the Thai group was, have you ever noticed that, people never actually achieve their New Year's resolutions? they just, right? They get forgotten in like the first week or something. Or, they join the health club and then they never go, or, something like that, right?
Can you hear me?
Ah, there he is.
Yay, we got Louis back.
Hi, guys.
Hooray.
Happy New Year.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
But those resolutions, man, they just go fast.
I try not to make them in January. I tend to just make them as and when.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it takes the pressure off.
Exactly. And there's no point waiting for a particular date to start something. If you want to start something now,
Right.
do it.
Yeah. I mean, if it was so good to start January 1st, why wasn't it good to start November 1st?
Quite right.
Or March 1st, for that matter.
Or even March the 22nd.
Yeah. So yeah, that's always been a bit of bittersweet amusement from my perspective, is how often people will do that kind of thing. I guess it kind of points to how people are, in many cases, goal oriented, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. But how interesting that they pick goals that they're not going to achieve. They're not going to take action to make them happen. They're not going to make the mental adjustment. They're not going to, otherwise they would have gotten there, right? I mean, the resolutions would have been followed through on. Everything would worked out great, but they don't do that. I just find that to be both fascinating and kind of indicative of, well, why it is that when people get involved in law of attraction, get involved in self-help and so forth, very often we have trouble making the change. Regardless of the New Year's resolution, we just have trouble anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves when we have this New Year's resolution and we're going to do this and I'm going to cut everything out. And it doesn't work like that. It's as Dan Mangena says, baby steps. Baby steps. Just do little things and build on that. And that's when you'll find you'll be more consistent.
Yeah, those baby steps, they take the pressure off.
Exactly. And you're not depriving yourself usually, are you? If
right.
And it's small changes which are possible and easier to do, and then it's the consistency.
That's a really great observation, that you don't deprive yourself, because in LOA speak we'd say that's focusing on lack.
Exactly. And you're focusing on lack, and then that's all you want.
We are strange people, you know that?
We're a complex computer.
We are indeed, yeah. So, Louis, I guess you've got all the technical difficulties ironed out, yeah?
Yeah, I'm still sorting out a little.
Still futzing out a little bit
here and there.
Yeah, okay.
But I should be all right very soon.
I just wasn't sure whether I could bring you into the conversation yet, or should I just let you continue to futz there?
Yeah, you can bring me in now.
Oh, okay. So
that should be okay.
Good to see you again, Louis. Did you have a good Christmas?
Excellent Christmas and New Year. Thank you.
Good.
I know you asked for some pictures, but I haven't really got around to sending sending you the Austrian pictures. It was amazing times. Probably one of my best holidays ever.
Really?
Oh, really?
Really, really amazing. There wasn't much snow, unfortunately, but, my little one still managed to do her last year of ski training.
Ah, good for her.
So now she's on the big slopes and forevermore.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good for her. Congratulations to her.
And, Isabel's turning 15 next month.
Wow,
So
15.
I know.
Wow. Yeah, it flies right along.
So yeah, it's all go this side. Rotary's keeping me very busy, and everything else. There's a lot of people I'm helping now in many different ways, because they're very unhappy and sad and depressed and all the rest of it. I seem to be landing up helping those kind of people a little bit at the moment, which is quite weird for me.
Well, it's kind of unusual. I mean,
Yeah.
Clearly you've been attracting them, and I mean, you've told me in the past how I just don't attract that kind of
Attract
person.
those
They don't
guys,
show
yeah,
up, but
yeah.
now you are.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just feeling more comfortable with being able to help them. I don't know how it all works, but it's not that I'm depressed in any shape or form.
Good to hear. Very good to hear.
Um,
It almost sounds like you're enjoying it too.
Well, I'm enjoying being the Rock,
Mm-hmm.
just being the Rock and remaining the Rock. Come up here, come up here, come up here. Because I'm not going down there. Not a hope in hell. So what else has happened? We got some students today. They're from France. They're from Normandy. So whenever you think of Normandy, you think about invasion and war.
Well, that's not the only thing I think about, but I understand the illusion. Yeah, World War II.
But they're very, very pleasant. And one of them's into art and all the rest of it. So Isabel's showing her art book. And she always enjoys students that are communicative and interactive, because you just suss them as they walk in the door, what they're going to be like.
Okay.
And,
so these are exchange students? Is that what these are?
No. So basically, these guys come from Europe usually, or further afield, to come to see London for a couple of days, for 2 to 7 days.
Okay.
And then we sort out accommodation, and some of them stay here and things like that.
Okay.
So that business is back again because COVID knocked that on its head. So it's nice to have that back up and running again, especially with our incredible gas and electrical prices in this country, which are gastronomical.
Gastronomical. Well, that's what happens when you inhale them. No, never mind that.
Yeah. But the solar panels, of course, are not working particularly well in winter. What else can I tell you? Oh, the holiday was just really great. Such nice people, my wife's family and all the rest of it, and friends. And New Year's Eve, we go to their house and we have a raclette. I don't know if you know what a raclette is.
No.
Well, basically, it's like a hob kind of thing that you put in the middle of the table, where you kind of like cook your own food. So
Yes.
you throw your own stuff on there, and then you got little trays where you can put in your cheese and melt it with your pineapple, and that's all delicious. And you've got the chicken and the meat and vegetables and all the rest of it. That's all put together on top there. So you're basically cooking your own food, which is quite fun.
Sounds a little bit like fondue on steroids.
Yeah. Fondues are great, but it's not a fondue. It's quite common. I mean, you can buy a raclette in the UK as well. It's not only European, but it's very popular. And it's a nice change, you know, it's like something different to do for a meal.
Mm.
And it's quite exciting. So, what else? The travel there and back was completely uninteresting and quick and easy, which is the way I like it. Not like the whole COVID scenario and all that's gone. So I hear next year they're forcing all the airports to put in extra different type of equipment so that you can walk in there with a liter of water. So the water thing and all the rest of it. So this sounds like it's going to be international, not
Really?
only Europe. Yeah.
That'd be useful.
So, you know, you don't have all these hassles of taking out all your perfumes and all the rest of it
Right.
and stuff. So all of that's going to go, which is nice. And then, what was the other thing? There's another thing that they also don't have to do. I don't know, but, you know, you can use your phone now during the flight as well in this country. I don't know about you guys, but, just got to, put it on airport,
Airplane mode.
airplane mode, and then you can use it as much as you want. So yeah, I mean, everything's becoming easier with travel now because they're having to, because, you know, it's very expensive. You know, it's almost doubled the price before and after COVID.
Is it really?
So, a lot of people are going to be slowing down, and it's going to become like it was in the beginning, more for the elite people rather than the average person. And I think it's going to get more and more that way based on all the different things that are being thrown at us at the moment. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, Rotary have asked me to talk on soil, so I'm giving a webinar on that. So I'm going to do a talk on that, and then on Thursday I'm going to be talking about myself, so my life story and who I am and why, you know, what I do now and all the rest of it. So
That'll keep you busy.
yeah, that'll keep me busy. We've spent 5 years trying to get to the bottom of that.
Still haven't gotten there. Actually, I have something for you because of your interest in soils. My sister gave me a Christmas present, a book that was written in the late 1980s called The Secret Life of Plants. And I highly recommend it to you.
Wow, it sounds great.
I think you're going to find that it dovetails very nicely with your interest in soil.
Fantastic. If you can wing that to me on Messenger, that'll be great.
Yeah, sure. I'll send you a link. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Because
I'm wondering if it's on Audible, because I can.
Oh, it is.
It is on Audible.
It is.
Cool,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, well, book that old. Yeah. And
because I've got a credit there, I can throw at that.
There you go. Yeah. No, it's been one of those evergreen titles for many, many years. So yeah, it's available everywhere.
Never heard of it.
Neither had I, but fascinating stuff, because what the book is really all about is those areas of scientific research where plant and horticulture are concerned that were largely rejected by the mainstream, but that managed to identify things like the ability of plants to send information to each other over great distances, and the ability of plants to respond to not just sound, but electricity, a whole variety of different kinds of wavelengths, waveforms, and also to respond to caregivers, to those who take care of the plants or who harm the plants. In fact, that's kind of what got the whole thing started. I'll give you an example. There was an experiment that was done very early on where there was a group that were involved in the experiment, and one of the group was designated as the, quote, murderer, unquote. And the murderer went in and basically tortured one plant in front of another plant. And then they later on paraded the entire group past that plant with the plant hooked up to what is the equivalent of a lie detector. So they could detect very slight changes. That's basically what kicks the whole book off. And when the murderer went by, the plant went berserk. The surviving plant went absolutely crazy.
Interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
And then they also discovered that if there was a caregiver taking care of the plant, and then the caregiver goes on a trip, didn't matter how far, 100 miles, 500 miles, whatever, and then experience some kind of emotional event, positive or negative, the plant would respond at the exact same moment that the thing happened. And those are just two interesting pieces, of tidbits of stuff that mainstream biological and botanical science rejected, but botanical scientists who were investigating it, the minority ones, were finding these really, really interesting results. And these authors have collected them in this book.
And the vegan and vegetarian say that they have no feelings.
I'm not sure if that's true, but it's funny.
Oh, it is. I was speaking to one the other day. He was the boiler man. And we've had some long philosophical conversations, and he's a strong vegan. So I said to him, what happens if somebody says to you that plants have feelings as well? He says, when they come up with that BS, I just turn around and walk away.
It's funny. They sound like the Main Street botanists in their response to these other guys. I mean, seriously, it wasn't all that far different.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go to my fridge now and go, be free, salad, be free.
Let me become a breatharian.
Well, there's also an interesting thing that happens, and I believe the same thing happens in domestic farm animals that are foodstuffs. And that is, at a certain point, when it's clear that they're about to be sacrificed to be made into food, they go into a dormant/death state before they're killed. Mm-hmm. And apparently the same thing happens with plants. So make of that what you will. But this is a really interesting book. It has all kinds of very, very interesting stuff. And I'm only about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm marveling at it.
But do they bury their dead? That's what I want to know. They don't. Maybe we shouldn't as well.
I've cremated many vegetables with my
cremated them, salted them, peppered them. Yeah. But
them bones gonna rise again.
And there were even references to how these various plants in these various test conditions interacted with soil, which was what made me think of your interest in soil. Mm-hmm. And the basic message of the book, if you want to draw like an overall overarching message, is that all plants are vibrational. All plants are alive. Mm-hmm. All plants are connected. All plant life is connected all over the globe, and it all works interactively. And when I think about that side of it, and I think about the things you've talked about in terms of soil, I think there is going to be a synergy going on there. Regardless of what humans do, there's going to be a synergy going on there, and it's going to have some kind of effect. I suspect a very positive effect. But I'm kind of curious to know what that is. And the book hasn't told me. So I think that's part of the reason I'm telling you. I'm hoping you'll read it and you can tell me that part.
No, you're not going to finish it.
Oh, no, I plan to finish the book. I just don't know if they're going to address that particular topic that particular way.
Okay.
But, yeah. But very, very interesting stuff. So, yeah, I commend that to you. Probably after you make your presentation. It's a good sized read. It is. It's a good sized book.
I'm just thinking of my life story, and my view from my bedroom window as a kid, was over the whole valley of the Barberton Valley in South Africa, and it's one of the biggest natural valleys in the world. So if you fill it up on the one side, it'll be a dam. The whole thing will just fill up like a dam. So you just have to one area you fill up. A dam wall, and this whole valley would turn into a dam. But sometimes the mist would roll in the morning, and you'd literally just from literally the grass all the way across to the other side of the valley, you would just see a cloud. and be sun and all the rest of it. And you just see this cloud and you just feel like you could get out and walk across this, from one side of the valley to the other one over on the cloud. But, it's just gorgeous. Really, really nice place to be brought up and, to go hiking and camping every weekend.
I can tell you were actually looking at that from on top of a mountain, because if you were looking at the same level as the cloud, you wouldn't be able to see that far. So you had to be above it. That's the only way you could actually
just
see that.
above it. But, that didn't happen often, but when it did, it was very spectacular. And then one day we had the hang gliders pop up, and we'd never heard of these guys before. And they said they wanted to jump off our mountain. And so my dad didn't let me go up the road, but my brother and sister and my dad went up, and they saw these guys jump off the mountain with these hang gliders.
Paraglider?
And no, it was a hang glider. And, the hang gliders were at a very sharp angle, about like this, and they just went straight down. And they got 183 degrees they got now, and that's really the widest they can have it, and it still fly and have control. But the wider they made them, the longer they stayed up, which is the reason why I brought that up. But in the old days, they just like down, and then we had the huge sisal patches in the town. Of course they look like nice green grass from high up, and when you get close, those sharp ends of the leaves that just tear the hang glider to pieces. But yeah.
What do they do to the person riding the hang gliding?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Oh, that's smart.
Not grass. Never do that again. But they eventually had the World Hang Gliding Championship there, and because of apartheid, they boycotted it, so they just had to have the South African hang gliding championships there. Because there's this mountain that you can fly off 190 degrees, so it's like a round head, and you can jump off in all different directions, which is perfect. So yeah. That was my childhood, watching these guys fly off a mountain.
That sounds pretty incredible. The view sounds amazing.
Yeah, I remember this guy flying off the mountain and crashing.
Ooh.
And
really?
He crashed quite badly, and ambulance came, took him away, but the next day he was up there again all week and all the rest of it. But he was determined to jump off again so that he didn't, so that he could overcome that fear of not flying ever again. And, which often happens. Yeah, just getting back on the horse. And, he did it. But, he had steel pins in his legs after things like that. He still, for years he came and he flew, but I had to admire him.
I don't know. I think there's a fine line between, courageous determination and reckless.
So, Walt, I'm guessing you haven't scuba dived, skydived.
Yeah, they aren't really high on my list. Not really.
Yeah, no, I get that.
My brother actually surprised me when he bungee jumped. I was stunned. I couldn't believe that he did that. In New Zealand, he did a business trip to New Zealand and bungee jumped. I think he also skydived on that one too. It was like, I don't know. He was not behaving Mark-like.
So the first time I jumped out of a plane, they teach you to put your hands up and say arch 1,000, arch 2,000, and when you hit 5, then you pull your cord or whatever. So I remember jumping out the plane and doing arch 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Check. Oh, the chute's open. That's good. So.
Yes. That makes you right there.
So that's fine. And then I was like, oh, this is so easy. And I pulled the things down to slow me down, and I just took a few steps on the ground, and I was perfect landing. And I thought, oh God, this is so easy. And I kept on holding the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
So the wind pushed on it and pulled me over.
Oh dear.
So it's like, oh, I'm so good. And then I forget to just let one of them go and keep the other one down. And then the parachute kind of folds up. But no, I was standing there look how good I am.
So proud of yourself.
My first time. And then the second time I jumped out, I completely forgot to say Arch 1000, 2000. So I look up and there's no chute. I was shitting myself. I'll never forget that. I was like, oh my gosh. But, after a while it becomes second nature and all the rest of it. But I remember that second time with the problems I had. I landed on a wing of a helicopter.
What?
A landed helicopter, it's still.
Well, I would hope. Yeah. Otherwise you probably have to be alive.
Exactly. So, the wind just dragged me and dropped me right on this.
How did you land on a helicopter blade? I mean, that's not a large.
And then it slid off and fell on the ground. But
yeah, but still, that's not a large target. That's a very small target.
It's just the way the wind blew.
That's crazy. Wow.
But it was interesting. But scuba diving, now that is special. What I hated about skydiving versus scuba diving was the time you spend.
Mm.
You've got so little time in the air in skydiving, and
sure.
And in scuba diving, you've got the whole boat trip through the waves, and and then the long trip to the dive site, and then jumping in the water. Then an hour later, you're coming back up again after stroking the ragged-tooth sharks, and which I literally did. I learned something about sharks. They don't have bones in their backs. They just have cartilage, so they can turn 180 degrees on themselves instantly.
Yeah.
And when I touched the tail, the guy went, and I had this face, the shark face in my. But they never attack anybody. They go there to mate every year at Al Shoal. Mm-hmm. And they literally look like they're on drugs. Give me some more drugs. But I must admit, I turned around very quickly to give them my steel cylinder to bite into if who's going to bite anything.
I don't know.
But, there was a potato bass there. It's a huge fish, massive thing. And we always used to go and scratch it under here, and I used to love that. And all the divers loved it. And then one day a fisherman caught him and brought him out, and he said, look what I got. And all the scuba diver guys went up to him and hit him to pulp.
Beat him. Mm.
Beat him up. For years we've been, having fun with this potato bass, and then this fisherman goes and he was such a part of our routine. Let's go find old potato bass. And the other thing is, I came back once and I was sitting there, like last time we were talking about out of body experience, and the guy said to him, he went to a wreck and he put his legs around the rail of the top of the wreck, and he was just sitting there and he was just like dreaming. And then he found himself outside his body and going, floating up to his wife and chatting to her and all the rest of it. And then he realized she couldn't see him, and he was all confused and blah, blah, blah. And he told us this incredible experience he had as an out of body while he was scuba diving. And, we used to have 2 or 3 dives in the morning, then go have some bacon and egg breakfast brunch kind of thing. And you'd be so chilled, you get kind of knocked every meter you go down. It's like taking a tot of whiskey. So you're a little bit
a little
loopy, and it's a really, really relaxing feeling because your mind is completely sharp as opposed to alcohol. It's completely sharp, but your body is exhausted. So you've got this completely relaxed body with a sharp, sharp mind. It's already quite an interesting experience, scuba diving.
I was just remembering the book I was telling you about, The Secret Life of Plants. One of the chapters talks about the auras of plants and the auras of humans too.
They do Kulian photography on plants.
They do. In fact, they give you the history of what's the pronunciation? Kulian, whatever it is.
Kulian, yeah.
Kulian,
sure.
yeah. But they talk about who the Kulians were and how they developed their thing and how the whole thing. It's pretty cool.
Now, these days they've got a glass which you just look through and it brings the right frequency out. So you don't even need the camera anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you just look through this glass and it changes the frequency. Because that's what's happening when your third eye opens. Is all it is your vibrational interpreting machine is now tuning into a different frequency and then being able to see them. But Sadhguru's take on it all was fascinating for me, which I think I brought up once before. He says he won't teach people to read auras. And somebody said to him, why? So he said, have you ever heard of the term skin deep?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? When you're looking at somebody and
shallow.
you're just looking at their beautiful body, it's shallow. You're just looking at the outside. He said, why would I teach you to look at the aura? It's even further outside.
Good point.
He said, I want to teach you to know inside who you are, who they are. And that was interesting. I'd never really thought of it from that point of view, but because I remember, during the spiritual path that I was a member of, and they often look at you like this, looking all around you, and then they'll look at you, and you kind of feel raped, like somebody's seeing and doing something that you have no idea of and no control of or anything. And I said that to one of them one day.
Clarify for me again. I think you just said, but I'm not sure I'm really on the right track here. Who are the they that you were referring to?
Some of the people who belong to a spiritual group that I was a member of.
A spiritual group, okay.
For many
right.
years.
Yeah, all right.
And I said to one lady, it's a little bit like being raped. And she just looked at me and she just burst out laughing. She said, I know what you mean.
Well, there's honesty. That's good.
It was, yeah. And, it is a bit weird when somebody looks at you like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, because
the first
are they really looking at you?
Do.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then now that I'm thinking about the whole thing that Sadhguru said, they really are looking at something really superfluous. Because if you can see auras, what you do understand about them is that they change very often and very quick.
Mm-hmm.
The colors and all the rest of it. So how do you interpret all that? It's like how to interpret all the different moods of a human. It's just like now you're cross, now you're not, and so what? And what's the big deal in it all?
Well, I suppose I could present the counter case that we gain a lot of information from body language, and that would be an extension of body language. Mm-hmm. So just because it isn't the language of the internal being doesn't mean it's useless.
Yeah, from my point of view, I've learned to let's say, not judge anybody. So whatever's going on in your life, I see it, I recognize it, but I don't care about it much anymore. It's not that important. If you're really loving, so you're loving. If you're really angry today, you're angry, It's just your stuff that's going on. I see it. I'm aware of it, but I don't really put any major significance in it. So yes, can be useful to say, whoa, I don't really want to be too close to that person because they're probably going to bite my head off. That's an awareness, but it's not, you're not necessarily worried about it. Even if they do attack me, so what? It's not really a big issue anymore. But, yeah,
I guess there's a difference right there, because for me, I'm fascinated and interested in why is a person exhibiting certain behaviors or giving off certain signals and so forth. I think that's part of the interesting part of getting to know who they are. So I guess it depends on what your perspective is and what your goal is with people.
I agree with you. So in the past, I used to be very interested in all of that. I used to sit in malls and just watch people, and school and just watch people, and university and watch people, and just fascinated by it all. And then you thought, well, actually, I'm not focused on who I am and where I'm going. What the hell am I doing here? That's the place I'm kind of got to now. Let me go out and do what I want to do now. And so that's my focus at the moment. And, whatever anybody else is doing, they're doing, good for them. And it doesn't really hold too much sway for me anymore. And I don't spend much time on it anymore. But I'm very, very clear.
I think I know why I like it so much. From a spiritual / energetic perspective, I think I like it because I like exploring the interconnections that I have with my fellow segments of source energy. Mm-hmm. Because we're all source energy. We're all these segments or these strands or whatever word you want to use to describe us. And yeah, we're all the same in that sense. We're all part of that same flow. But by the same token, we all have individuality. And it's fascinating as far as I'm concerned, partly because of the differentiation and partly because it's fun to discover through the exploration of that differentiation the ways that we do transmit stuff between each other. Obviously we do it through talking. That's a significant form of communication, but there are other ways too. And the more that I learn about that, the more interesting it is. The more interesting people become to me. So yeah, again, it just completely comes down to what your own personal orientation is, and yours is perfectly legitimate, just like mine is, just different. But how interesting those differences are.
Yours isn't legitimate, mine is.
Well, from your perspective, I suppose that's true. From my perspective, you're full of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do love it when you walk into a room and it's got like a really weird atmosphere, and then I just sit there and just try and play with it and see if I can change the atmosphere in the room. And when you walk in, you can just tell somebody's in a bad mood and nobody dares talk, and everybody just feels it. And I love trying to change that. I do find that quite fun.
I do kind of wonder why almost every year Isabel's been in her class that the teachers have always said in that year that the class she's been in has been the nicest one that they all want to have.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And, I'm just wondering how much, going in there with a balance has helped that. And it really is just something I'd really love to see clearly what that is, because that is something outside there. But to see how, a balanced individual can affect those in the class, etc.
Well, she's not just balanced; she's also a very calm individual. The couple of times that we've had her on the program, well, first it's hard to get anything out of her, but when you can get something out of her, it's always a very calm, measured, relaxed approach. You get that kind of energy going on in a room, and in any way influencing the other energies in the room, you're going to end up with a very chill room. You're just going to. That's part of what happens. Now, if you get somebody coming in there who's hyper, that's going to produce a different kind of effect. But I could see that easily because she is so much herself that it's not like she's putting on an act. It's not like she's trying to impose on somebody else or force herself or make somebody else vibrate to herself. She's just being truly Isabel.
Exactly.
And that's going to be the most powerful thing you can ever do.
Yeah. This is really interesting to be able to see how different people affect it. Because I know in Eloise's case, she's got a friend who's way off the wall, ADHD type, off the wall, bouncing around, and cries to get her own way, to manipulate those around her.
She's learned the games.
So, but, I think she's a great teacher for Eloise, and Eloise has learned a lot from that. And her other friend is also similar, uses similar devices to manipulate. And she sees it and uses those words, trying to manipulate me and get me to do that.
Eloise actually identifies it that way. That's cool.
And she's got this highfalutin vocabulary that she just danders around, and she understands clearly what the words mean. It's
That's
really
great.
Amazing. It blows me away. So, Yeah, I'm really proud of both my kids, just watching them and how they act and react and all the rest of it, because, I'm a tough love kind of guy. So,
is that really the right phrase? I mean, just from what you've told us, my take on it is that you're a hands-off love kind of guy. Like, I love you, now just go do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough love. So Isabel says to me today, Dad, can you pick us up? No. You walk. You walk. I'm not going to go get you. It's not raining. Go. Tough love. You need the exercise. I don't. You need the exercise. My car doesn't. But yeah, no. They're definitely able to deal. Eloise has already said, I want to walk to school last year. So that's at 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to walk to school and back from school by herself.
Wow.
Okay. And I would let her, but from a society point of view, it's just,
it's a risk. Yeah.
No, what I meant is, I drop her off quite far from school now, and it's getting further and further away. But one of the parents is, her son says, I want to walk as well, Mom. And, she can walk, I can walk. And it's like, I trust my daughter, but I don't know how much you trust your son. It's your decision. But, it really starts, there's a ripple effect that happens from something like that you just have to be kind of aware of, you don't have to stop your kid doing it, but, I try to downplay that and get Eloise not to tell everybody that she wants to walk or she has walked most of the way to school.
Little social strategy there.
Yeah, but every parent and child has to make their own decision. But
very true.
Have you had to deal with Eloise, Anne-Marie? I mean,
that's what I was going to ask.
Yours are relatively young, but
Yeah, I it was when you said about Eloise and she's got friends who cry and things like that. I think that my daughter experiences that, and I'm trying to teach her, like, you've got the power. Don't give people your power. If don't try. I'm trying to teach her not to be affected by that, and if you don't want to do something, don't do it. That's fine. And just trying to explain to her. But I think whereas my eldest gets it so much easier, and she's more independent, and she tells me when she's ready. Like, I've offered, I just need to pop to the shop. Do you want to come with me, or you can stay home for 10 minutes? And she's like, oh, I'll come with you. Whereas recently she stayed on her own and she's been fine. So just like take it at her levels. But I just find that the kids are just, it just feels like a different childhood to what we had when we could go off on our bikes for miles and miles and miles and just be gone for hours. And nowadays that doesn't seem to happen so much, but they're learning, they're building their freedom.
Yeah. Something I miss is when I look outside on the streets, you don't see kids banding together, playing games or doing anything. It just doesn't exist anymore. And to me, it's a crying shame. My daughter has a wall next to the garage, and they always go up and climb, and they sit on this wall and they have these long discussions late at night. And then, because I have no bedtime rule for Isabel, so she just sits there maybe till midnight on the wall chatting to her next door neighbor friend. And they have these long conversations, and I wish I was a fly on the wall, listen to some. And then, eventually they'll come in, and, the other girl usually sleeps overnight every Friday. But, that's their kind of freedom. They can go there, or they walk up to the forest. One day in the middle of summer, they filled a bucket full of water. And they carried it, 2 buckets, and they carried them all the way to the field up in the woods, and threw water at each other in swimming costumes, and then came back sopping wet, and they were all happy about this. And it's like, this is so cool,
Literally.
Yeah. But, I just wish more of that happened. You just don't see it often enough. You just don't see it. Everybody's like, careful, don't speak to this person, don't do that, don't do this, don't do. I was like, come on. I say, Isabel, trust your gut. Some people you can speak to, some people you can't, but trust your gut, because I trust you, and to make the right decisions. And then it's okay, it all works out.
I think we're actually going to swing back. I think this is a pendulum thing. I mean, the pendulum has swung very, very strongly toward, I'll just call it the 21st century technology side. So everybody is doing their interacting online. But I think it's going to swing back. It may already be starting to swing back.
I think you're right, Walt. I think you're really right.
I hope so.
Do you know how much Facebook has lost traction or users or whatever you want to call it? People hardly using Facebook. It's massive. I mean, it's gargantuous. And Twitter's lost massive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not only because Elon has been
that could actually be the worst investment Elon Musk has ever made. I think.
Yeah, lost 200 billion. I mean, so what? Who cares? And what else? You know what I love about Elon? He's happy to lose that because he knows how to make more. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Yep.
And I love that resilience. A lot of people would be absolutely frozen because of that kind of a loss. I mean, that's not a small loss.
No, it's significant.
It's not a small loss, but, I have to admire the guy because he's obviously got deep-seated confidence in himself.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love it. As I say, I've always admired confidence on that level to that degree.
There's a part of me, though, that wonders, does he truly understand how much he was sticking his head into the mouth of the lion when he did this? Because I'm not sure that he did.
Well, Apple, I don't know who heads up Apple now.
Yeah, give me I'll tell you.
Yeah, so there was a rumor that Apple would remove Twitter from the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
So Elon goes in there, straight the next day, books an appointment and goes to go see the head of the guy, just waltzes in and, has a chat to him. No, he's not going to remove it at all, blah, blah, blah. Says, okay, that's fine. And he walks out again, and when he took
Tim
Twitter,
Cook, that's his name. Tim Cook,
yeah. I mean, he's really incredible. I think he has a very clear idea of what he's doing. And a lot of it is bit political as well.
Oh yeah. He has very strong political motivation going on. That's the part that I'm wondering, though. Did he really understand what it was he was getting into? I'm not 100% sure he did. Maybe he did. I don't know. He may be more of a muckraker than I thought. I mean, I don't know.
The other thing I found out the other day, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I didn't realize, I was always thought about woke. We've always talked about woke, yeah? And I said to my brother, well, I've never met anybody who said they're woke. He said, no, nobody says they're woke. There isn't a group called woke. It is just, and I was like, oh, I thought it was like a political party or something, but I realized it's just guys quietly going on and doing this, So I was really confused because I thought it was, I mean, I'm totally ignorant about politics, but I really was totally unaware that there wasn't a woke group per se, which was very interesting. And that's changed my whole opinion about how I look at woke now because of the clarity that I've gained from knowing this.
So what's the new viewpoint? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Well, the new viewpoint is that there's a silent, massive group that is going and thinking in a specific way that haven't actually joined together per se. I mean, in smaller and different groups they have, but not called woke per se.
Mm-hmm. I think of the term woke as a term that it's a created term, and it's created by people who have a political agenda in some ways in competition with or in conflict with the people that they have put into their hypothetical woke group that they're talking about, that they're addressing. And it's the same kind of thing that's been done many times over the years. That's how pejoratives get created. We're going to label this group of people as X so that we can make fun of them for being X. And that's pretty much what has happened with the whole woke generation thing. The funny thing that happens, though, that the labelers don't fully grasp until much, much later on, is that if you do that long enough, the people you label end up embracing the title. And then all of a sudden your whole purpose is gone because, I wanted to label them to, disparage them and so forth. And now all of a sudden it's a source of pride.
Yeah. I mean, the niggers have quite, taken that word on board and they use it on themselves all the time, isn't it?
Well,
which of course
not everybody, maybe not
everybody, but
but
a lot of them have. And I think the ones that have taken away the power of the word.
To that extent, yeah. It varies to the extent with the extent to which different labels get absorbed and taken on varies from situation to situation.
Of course.
I mean, one thing that one that comes to my mind now is the word queer to describe homosexuals. That used to be very pejorative. Today, it's definitely a label of pride. I mean, we've had people coming here onto the show who literally self-identify as
queer.
Yeah. And that's like, okay. Well, just shows how perceptions can change just
it's the same as gay and that whole group. They're all quite proud to be that.
Yeah. Which is good. Being proud of yourself is a good thing.
I think a lot of people that I hear that use the word woke just don't understand the change, the different viewpoints. So they just label it. They don't really understand it necessarily. But they'll just go, they just say woke because you've got a different view. I don't get it.
I think you're right.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like an age thing, like the older people look at the younger people going, you just can't cope with this, you can't cope with that, you're just so woke. They just don't get it.
Right. That's another extension to that word,
I'm also thinking about people who are, how do I want to describe? People who have labels associated with them and they just don't care. They're sort of Louis-ish on that particular point. You can apply the label to them. They say, okay.
Yeah. And, anything that's going to, if somebody upsets me, I immediately say, why am I giving my power to them? Why would I do such a stupid thing? Somebody says, isn't that making you angry? I said, no, why would I give them my power? I'm not going to do that. Not for anything. So, I mean, I wish more people were resilient. It would be nice. But again,
I would actually argue that they are resilient, just not necessarily in the way that you'd want them to be. But how many people will hang on to being, say, codependent? That's a form of resilience. In the face of all information and all challenges, they'll insist on staying in that codependent state. I mean, how much more resilience do you want? Just not the healthy kind, perhaps, but.
I mean, when I look at my wife and I, there is a level of codependence. There just is. And I don't see it as wrong in any shape or form. Just you're better than, I'm better at this. That's it.
Well, it's just a really question of how does your codependence affect you, and are you happy or unhappy about it? How do you feel about it? Yeah. I mean, I think the whole purpose of the concept of codependence from the therapeutic viewpoint is to help people understand why it is they're not getting what they want, which is not necessarily as good perhaps as what we talk about when we talk about focusing on what you want and so forth. But nevertheless, that's the purpose, to help them understand. Here's why you keep getting the same result over and over again. You're demonstrating this codependent tendency. Oh, okay. Then you can decide do you want to do anything about it? It's up to you.
Yeah, no, just thinking again back to Austria and the Austrian Alps is just such clear air, when you come back to London, it's like, and you're walking in those mountains and you've got these streams next to you and they, just so clean and clear, you can drink from anywhere and it's just really weird to to have that level of cleanness. And, you know, I always feel because of, you know, the soil and all the rest of it, wouldn't it be nice if the whole planet was that clean, you know?
I suppose. I mean,
I think it would be really nice.
I like the fact that there are certain areas that are already.
Mm-hmm.
That part's really cool. When you were talking about Austria too, it occurred to me that's the setting for the movie from the early 1960s, The Sound of Music, and
Heidi.
and Heidi, and a few others too. But The Sound of Music in particular, because, and this kind of ties back to the book I was talking about before. The very first words you hear in that movie are, "The hills are alive with the sound of music."
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, the music is the cleanliness, the clarity of the air. You know, there's like there's a vibrational brilliance to the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something, you know, this time around, I just felt there was so much more clarity in my thinking, in my understanding of the people around me, in the understanding of the town, the situation. Everything was just clear. And it was just really strange because the contrast between the other years, which is about 15 years I've been going there, sometimes twice a year, the contrast between how I felt and thought about it then versus how I felt and thought about it this time was a significant difference. And it shocked me because, like, why didn't I see it clearly before? You know, the normal kind of scenario where, you know, when you suddenly see something clearly, you wonder why you couldn't see it clearly before.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think if London had that clear air and that clear water, that you would have had that clarity and that appreciation on your trip away?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with that at all. It's to do with me changing inside, in some shape or form. I really don't think you know, do you get enlightened faster on the top of the Austrian Alps mountains versus in London? I don't think so. It's up to your imagination and how, you know, it does have a factor. So the factor that I've kind of worked out recently is if you do breathing correctly, you get your mind into a great place that sees clearer. So there's this whole cycle between, you know, which one do you do first? If you just try to think clearly, it's not going to work until you still the mind. But if you do the breathing and you get the mind still, then you can think clearer. So, you know, there's this whole, and if you got clear air, you'll be able to, it would help. There would be a level of advantage. But I don't think the advantage of looking at the people there and their level of awareness, I don't think the clear air is making a huge amount of difference. and you know, living there all the time, I just don't see a massive level of clarity there that I don't see. And it's really up to an individual as to what they do and when they do it, how they do it. And I don't think the location makes a massive amount of difference.
That's interesting because, as you pointed out earlier, for your own experience, you were very much enjoying the clarity of everything in the Austrian space, and yet you're describing a scenario in which you don't necessarily think it's true for other people who live there. That's an interesting dichotomy.
I mean, they've lived there their whole lives, so if they've got that clear air and clear water all the time, I mean, literally, the stream above the house is where the water comes from. I mean, literally, and there's a short level of pipe that goes into the house. The water's as pure as you can get it, you know. The air is, you know, really clean there. There's 800 people in the village. It's not big. It's high up in the mountains.
Yeah.
It snows which kills a lot of the bugs, etc. You know, because of the very cold temperatures. So, you know, they don't have a lot to fight there. And yet they got health problems like everybody else, left, right, and center. And, yeah. There's a lot of things I can say, but because they're related to people I know, etc., I can't.
Sure. But I guess the generic point that Anne Marie was bringing up is that the contrast that you experience between London and Austria is a valuable contrast because that helps you to appreciate a whole lot more what you're experiencing in Austria.
Yeah, I mean, you just go for a walk for hours and hours and hours, and you just feel great, just deep, like cool, clean air into the lungs. And I always wear my barefoot shoes now, even in the snow and everywhere there, just enough to keep the cold from coming through to.
Well, okay,
to
you
my
got to
feet.
define a term. Barefoot shoes. Isn't that like a contradiction?
They're big and famous, and everybody uses them these days. But basically, they're they're very soft soles. So, in other words, you can feel all the pebbles and all the rest of it. So, so they really are becoming extremely popular. I mean, if you look on Amazon now, you'll find 20 companies at least that are selling them. When I started looking at them 5 years ago or something, there was only one.
Interesting.
So, and now the different shapes, colors and flavors that they've got are massive. And, everybody's taking away the arch, protection. And then literally it's just a bit of rubber at the bottom, stylized with some nice red and colors on it and just looking cool kind of shoes. And you can take them and squeeze them and roll them into a tiny little ball. There's nothing much to them.
Right.
But because my feet are always warm and my hands, I don't really have a problem with the temperature aspect. And they're made of kind of like, what is that scuba diving kind of material? You know what I mean? So basically, when they get wet, it keeps your foot warm because it's got the same effect as like the scuba diving thing. Is that the water, you're heating up the water with your body, and then everything's kept warm. So even when they do get wet, it's not really an issue. Your feet still remain warm. But when you go home and take them off, and they freeze because they're cold, So, but then you just have to dry them and put some socks on and you're fine again. But, I love them because, I've always liked walking around barefoot. I always have. So I like feeling all the stones and the pebbles and, all that kind of thing. I like being close to terra firma and it's very, very healthy for you. If you're walking and you're feeling extreme pain in your foot, those are the reflexology points to different parts of your body. Which are saying, there's a problems going on and there's problems here. So, it's really, really good to learn to walk barefoot. And I feel more and more people should do it. It's incredibly healthy. Plus you're getting that 4.7 hertz of the planet Earth really healing you while you're wandering around. So, I've got 2 pairs at home. One I wear in winter, which I need some water protection from the bottom. And the other ones I've got about 100 holes in the bottom. So all the water just goes straight up into there. So you get some, so one is more a beach shoe, or to walk along those little quite stony areas and also the holes are there to drain the water. And the other one is, I use, as I say, when I really winter and I want to protect my foot a little bit from the water. So I've got both of them.
He's got the complete set, Anne-Marie.
In every color.
In every color.
And then I've got the old ones, which I use for gardening.
Well, I have to say, this has been a very comforting and relaxed kind of conversation. We kind of meander all over the place, but it's been a lot of fun. So thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Is an hour gone by already? Oh my God.
It's more than an hour. Yeah. We just flew right past it. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
everybody.
everybody.